Salvete omnes. It's me, Magister Sullivan, back again from after break in the new year. We're picking back up Aeneid, Book 6, lines 295 through 316. And here we're in the underworld with Aeneas and the Sibyl, the Cumæan Sibyl, on his quest to go find out his destiny from his father. So we'll start off here. So we have from this side, there is, so est is not there, although it should be. Again, we call that ellipsis, is when there's a word there. It's usually est or the verb to say. So again, from this side, there is the way, or probably the way or path of uh, the Tartarus, which brings forth or carries, or yeah, that's probably brings forth or carries to the waters of the Acheron or Acheron. Again, the Acheron is a river in the underworld. And then here, so the swollen, here we go, the swollen abyss seeds with sludge and a vast or large whirlpool. Again, if you take a look at the word picture here, we have chiasmus. And it vomits forth omnem harinam, all the sand, to the Cocytus, which is another river in the underworld. We should note out this here that this is a dative. This looks like it's an ablative ending, but it's a dative of direction, almost exclusively used in poetry. All right, now we go down here to Portor. So the ferryman, and he is the shudder-inducing ferryman. And of course, we know that this is referring to Charon. So the shudder-inducing ferryman, Charon, protects or serves these waters and rivers in his filthy or terrible squalor, terrible filth. So here we have terribile to squalore. All right, this is either an ablative, it's probably most likely an ablative of specification, or it could be ablative of description. So those are some terms that we can throw out there. And then we have this relative clause here, to whom, again referring to Charon, to whom much or most uh, unkempt gray hairs on the chin lies. And his eyes or lights stand in with or by the flame. A dirty or filthy cloak hangs down from his shoulders in a knot. All right, so one thing I want to point out here is this is a poetic device that we haven't really talked about, although we've seen a whole lot, and we just didn't give it a name. So here we have an adjective, and then we have to wait all the way to the end of the sentence to get the noun. This is something called hyperbaton. So don't confuse it with hyperbole, which is excessive exaggeration, but hyperbaton. And we see it again up here with turbidis gorges, right? So the swollen abyss, right? So you have to wait all the way to the end. It kind of builds that suspense for us. All right, so ipse, he himself guides or directs his raft, his skiff, with a pole, and guides it with sails, willies, sails. And he carries, he transports the bodies in his rusty boat. So Kumba is the same thing as Ratem here, right? So, and now old, but the old age to the god, so the old age to the god is both crude and fresh, or bloody and fresh. So the entire or or the whole crowd, and then Efusa is going to go with this too, right? As we see here. So having poured forth to the riverbanks, to the shores, we're rushing, right? So notice the imperfect, right? We're rushing. Hook is to this place, so Iluk would be to that place. So once again, the entire or all the crowd, having poured forth to the riverbanks, to the shores, were rushing forth to this place. And that crowd includes mothers and men. Weary can also be commonly referred to here as husbands, and the bodies of magnanimous, like larger than life, heroes having been completed, or having completed their life, having, in other words, having died, right? So, again, and the bodies of larger than life heroes uh, having been completed, having been used up, having been filled with or from or by life, again, meaning that they died. The boys and unwed girls, right? And we've seen that reference before. Remember, if we get back to when the Trojans were happily bringing in the Trojan horse into the city, thinking that the war itself was over, and the unwed girls were the ones touching the ropes or touching the horse as it came into the city. In celebration, now it's not very much celebration, right? And the young men or the young people having been put upon the funeral pyres. And they're doing all of this before the mouths of their parents, before the faces of their parents. Right, and now we have not one, but two similes with quam multa and quam multi here. Okay, so and we can have this. There are as many as, or, so there as much as, or there are as many as um, leaves, which which there are as I'm sorry, there as many as, or count as many as leaves having fallen, having slid down in the first chill, in the first coldness, yeah, of the autumn, fall in the forest. Or, again, as many as the birds which are gathered to the land, to the earth, to the land, from the deep abyss, from the deep whirlpool, when the cold new year, when the cold year makes them flee across the sea. Right, so remember, there's so many words for sea. We have Pontus, we have Mare, we have Oceanus, we have Altum, so many. And sends it forth, or sends them forth um, in the sunny lands. Right. First, they were standing, uh, begging. First, they were standing while begging to cross, to send themselves across the course waters. And they were stretching their hands with desire for the riverbank beyond. But the sad sailor, the sad oarsman, the sad, um, again, this is a ferryman, this is Huron, receives now these ones, now those ones, but keeps away those, like those other ones. Again, sorry, we'll go back. But he keeps away others, having been removed far from the beach, far from the sand. It doesn't have uh, a long mark in there, but or in the text, but I think there should be out of far from the sand. Right. So that's it. That's Aeneid 6, 295 through 316. Again, this is our first instance of Charon, and the tone here, or the mood here, is to set up this kind of filthy, ragged looking ferryman coming to collect the souls. Right. And we have this kind of frenzy for those begging to again to cross the course, cross the water into their afterlife. Um, and so we get that image kind of all these souls, right? And so we'll pick it up with Aeneas and what he wanders at or gives at next. Um, all right. Until then, have a good night. Valeteones.